Hello, welcome aboard. Welcome once again to Poker the Muppets. It is your host, as always, it's Pluto Man, and I'm going to run through a BADUGI tournament that I played last Saturday. 550 buy-in, bump it up a little bit at the weekend. Wouldn't mind if they bumped it up a bit more, honestly, but you take what you can get and yeah, bump it up, bump the buy-in up, have longer levels, and I'd be all over it. But then that might attract some better people. And what the nice thing about it is that sometimes the fields aren't very good. It's a high variance game, though, and not quite as high variance as triple draw, as I've explained in my triple draw videos. But what makes it pretty high variance is the fact that you know you that the blinds go up pretty quickly, and before you know where you are, you feel like you have no chips because you basically do have no chips relative to the blinds. So here we go. I'm skipping through some of the hands here, and this is my very first hand of the tournament, which was obviously junk. So I've got this Kildare Aces to my right here. Now, I don't think he's a very good player. He plays a lot, though. I used to put him as green, meaning bad, but I think he's improved a bit. However, I don't think he's very good, despite him playing relatively often. Um, so I've got quite a lot of notes for him on him going back 2 years. I think he has improved, but I think he's just too loose passive, honestly. And I think a lot of people in Badugi are too loose passive. I remember in the good old days that was how I was able to win. You didn't get people bluffing very much, um, or people are failing to bet their good hands. So anyway, I'm in the big blind here. The good three cards and stuff like that. Don't know this. It seems like he's from Ireland, but he's actually from Malta. He's well, in Malta by the looks of things. But we have this, but Kildare Aces is from Ireland, and we get a free look at a three-card draw in the big blind, and I improve, but the pot's small. So where do we go? How do we so checks and I check. So we go 1-3-3, and Kildare Aces doesn't bet. So this is almost you can almost tell he's not a good player there. If he goes, he probably needs to raise a one-card draw most of the time anyway. He calls before the draw anyway, and then when he doesn't bet the flop, that's a bit ridiculous. So so I just get out of the way there. This is the next sort of playable hand I have a look at it. I think this is the 10th best Badugi. 6421, 64. I think it's number 9 actually. I think it's the ninth best Badugi. Yeah, number 9. So I just try and shovel as much money in as possible here. It's the best thing to do. Don't think about slow playing a hand like this. Couple of reasons. One, how do you balance that? How on earth do you balance slow playing a hand like this? Because you don't get very many hands like this at all. So again, I get more money in here. He calls again, Kildare Aces. This McMelly, it's so weird what he's doing, patting. It's like he doesn't know how to, but now he's drawing. Okay, my hand is that good that I don't mind people breaking here. I come out and bet again, obviously. Now Kildare Aces gets out of the way. I wonder if his name is a pun. Kildare obviously is part of Ireland, but so we go 1-0 on the last draw. He bets, which is really lovely, so I raise this. And he calls, and so I win actually a pretty healthy pot, chunky pot for the for such an early stage of the tournament. And what did he have? What did McMelly have? He had trip fives. No, he didn't. He had trip fives on a previous hand. He had a flush. He had 6-5-4-1 as a flush, which if it was an actual Badugi, I still would have beaten him, which is kind of interesting to note. But he obviously doesn't have a clue what he's doing. I thought that might have been the case. So no matter what sort of hand I had, I wasn't going to fold to him there, to his bet. The pot was got big, and with somebody you don't know at the beginning of the tournament, whose play is a bit weird, you really have to think: do they know what they're doing at all? Do they know the rules of the game? And you can't make folds even without a Badugi. If you've got a reasonable three card hand, you need to make the call there. there's an unknown player who's doing something a bit weird and they pat, or they're representing a BADUGI. So anyway, this one here then, two draws left. I've got 7-5-3. It's not a great hand, but I've got to keep going here, especially with this guy, this McMelly, who doesn't know what to do, what he's doing, right? So 1-1, and I then go and hit that. So I mean, my hand is vulnerable. It's a very strong hand, but it's not an absolute world beater. Calls, and I just raise, obviously. I'm not going to be folding this at any point, no matter what either of the other two players do. Even though flush draw, I think, probably does know how to play. He's getting 13-1 on the call here. I'd be raising hands much weaker than this too, because if McManley doesn't even know what he's doing. So he's got a call there. It does increase the variance as well when you've got someone who doesn't know what they're doing. So check. If he bets, what do I do? Do I raise? It's an interesting one, isn't it? But Melly comes out and bets I have to raise. And okay, so look at me now. I've got about 5,000 in chips. I've only been going for 10 minutes. What did McMelly have that time? Can we have a look? Can I have a look? He obviously has not the foggiest idea. It is amazing, isn't it, how often you see that. So here we go. Now I have 3-2-1. I make a mistake here. I make a mistake. We'll see in a minute. I've got a big hand, big draw here. 20 minutes into the tournament now, so I've skipped quite a few hands. So I think it's already 20 minutes, and so I have to raise there. My hand's far too good not to. 1-1-2. Have to bet this. Have to bet it. Anything else would be terrible. Go to the last draw. I don't improve. I've hit a couple of low cards though, interestingly enough. Because my hand is that strong, I have to bet it again. It's a little bit awkward if he raises me, and he check raises me, which is kind of interesting. Now on the river, I go and hit this big hand, hit a 7, the nut 7. It's the best possible 7, and he bets into me. Now, I think I'm seeing monsters under the bed here. I've seen people do this, and they've shown down 6s and 5s so often, but I think I make a mistake here by not raising. The main reason is that if I start on the turn, he should be raising there with any BADUGI, and even maybe a non-BADUGI sometimes. The other thing is, because he just limped in to begin with, he's sort of telling me that I don't have a very strong 3-card hand. So if that's the case, then even the best hand that he could possibly hit is not as good as what I've got. He shouldn't. I mean, that play, the pre-draw play is weird anyway. He shouldn't be making a play like that, I don't think. And then drawing 1, it's not something I would ever do. So I make a mistake by just calling here. I needed to raise. And then look what he had. He had queen. And that was fine, him coming out and betting there, because I'm representing basically the hand that I actually had earlier on, which is the 3-2-1. So when he comes out and bets, doing that with any BADUGI is actually a pretty good play. So his pre-draw play was not very good, but the rest of his play was fine. And I messed that up by not raising. I have to raise there. I mean, 8-3-2-1 I think would be kind of probably just cool there actually, and maybe like a really rough 7 I'll just call. But this smooth 7, it beats every other 7. It's a slam dunk raise, and it's a big error there. I knew it at the time. I knew that was a mistake, and I felt bad about it. So when you've got this under the gun, what's interesting about this? And then 3-bet, I fold. It's a little bit tight. The only other option would be to cap and pat, and he doesn't discard. So people are not very aggressive. So if this was like a 2-4 game, like cash game or something, I would just cap and pat that, and probably just cool down the whole way, not fold, unless both of them got into a raising ball or something. Then I'd fold. But so actually, what happens? Notice that I folded he actually had a better pat hand than I had. So I thought there's two options here. Either um, I've got I've got the worst hand already, which is what happened, or I have, I may have the best pat hand. He might have a pat hand that's worse than mine, but that's not going to happen that often. I don't feel he's going to be patting with worse, Jack or King Queen. Maybe he'll do that. Or the other option is that he's got a really strong three card hand, and with the third player in the hand as well, I'm not in very good shape there because they're both going to be drawing live to beat whatever I've got. So I don't have a lot of equity in that spot. So I thought, well, two of those, the two most likely scenarios there, I thought were bad for me. Obviously, the one where he's got a better pat hand, I've got zero equity there because I can't break my hand. Jack eight, wasn't it? You can't drawing. If you're that sure that you're dead, well, then the eight might not be very good either. So you can't break that hand. So yeah, I think I did the right thing there by getting out of the way. Honestly, might look really tight there, but when you've played enough, you can see that it's against this sort of field. So if it was a 2-4 or 3-6 cash game in 2011 or 12, 10, then I'd have just capped and patted there for sure. You've got to know the tendencies of the people you're up against. I have seen this man go 200 before as well. I mean, I would raise a hand a bit weaker than what I've got there. So I made one mistake, but then I think I sort of redeemed myself a little bit there, that hand. So I'm just replaying the hand back because when I played it because I felt almost ashamed of what I did there. Anyway, so this King Badugi here, I just fold immediately under the gun +1, nothing to draw to. This one here, I fold that too. It wouldn't be an absolute. Well, I think now I have to fold. So notice I had 3-1 there. If the raise hadn't come, then over limping I think would be kind of okay. But again, you don't. There's a lot of people who have position on you, so you want to really be in a position when you have a two-card draw. And I was out of position to a lot of people, so I just simply got out of the way there. Down to the next hand. 6-4, not too bad in the big blind as a two-card draw. And Kildare Aces probably needs to either raise or fold here. That's what I would do in these. But he doesn't. He just limps. Okay, see a lot of that. 2-2. Now it's a difficult one. This says we're going for 2 hours. We've actually been going for all. This is another amazing thing about this tournament, right? Which I haven't talked about yet, is that we've been going for almost an hour here. So this is how few hands I've played actually. This is the 52nd hand in the tournament, and we've been going for almost an hour. So we had a break as well, but we're playing less than a hand a minute, which is good. There are two sort of counteracting aspects here, or factors. One is that you want to play as many hands as you can, get as much volume in as possible. That's going to help you decrease the amount of variance and everything. But on the other hand, you like it when they don't play very many hands because that when the hands go more slowly, people are generally, that means that more people are involved in each pot, and it generally just means the quality of play is lower, and that's what you want to see. You want to see lower quality of play. So the two factors there, by far the more salient one, if you like, is the fact that if the play is slower, the quality of play is not going to be as good. More players to the flop, 4-5-way pots, that sort of stuff. That's what you want to see, even if it means the game goes annoyingly slowly. So anyway, we go 2-2. Oh, this is the 52nd hand of the tournament. I've only seen 7 draws. This is the 8th draw I've seen in the tournament. So I'm playing. Obviously there's a couple of hands there. So I've won only one 5-pot so far, and he's shown down 4 hands. So I haven't been particularly active. It might look like I've been active, but I'm skipping over a lot of stuff where nothing's happened. So as I bet, I bet the flop with the 8-6-4, and I actually don't know whether that's such a good thing. The other thing I could do is to actually bluff this and turn this into a snow, which is just the pot's so small. It's like, is it even worth doing that? So I don't know whether betting the 8-6-4. I think it's one of those ones we could go either way, and either way would be fine. To mix it up a little bit, something like that. So anyway, we go 1-1. Now I'm probably behind what he has. I could bluff the river here, decide not to though. And he's got 4-3-2, which is appalling, by the way, how he didn't bet the river there. He has to bet the river there after I check, unless he's going for some kind of check raise. But I don't think I don't think he's doing that. I think he's just going to go check and hope it checks down, which is really bad. He's ahead of what I have, basically all the time there. Anyway, he's going to lose there is if I hit. That's how people are difficult to. He's going to make himself much harder to play against if he bets there a lot more often. So shouldn't be giving him any pointers though. So anyway, so we just see a monster hand there. Someone makes 6-3-2-1, which is the sixth best hand in the game. And then on the very next hand, let's see what happens here. I have ace-2 on the button, but so I would open it up if it was folded round to me. I'd have to open it up. There's even some dead money there. Notice how all my hearts and diamonds are live too. But when this under the gun guy raises, I actually think calling here would be pretty bad. There is the possibility that because he's short, he might be doing that with a wider range. You see that quite often, but you can't just assume that. He's going to have a pat hand or a strong one card draw the vast majority of the time here. Now it goes three, a third bet goes in, he calls, and then he draws two. So unless it's possible he actually had a pat hand and broke it, but more likely he just had a two card draw there. So you don't actually see that very often, someone opening a two card draw under the gun. But again, as I said, he was short, so people do that more often when they're short. So 2-1-0, 2-1-0, and now 1-1-0, and he donks there, which is really bad. You need to let Kildare raise his bet, and then he needs to go and raise there, right? He needs to raise there, check raise. It's the only way to play that hand. No other way makes any sense. It's a really bad play there. You miss out on a big bet there. And then he raises. He raises, but I mean he could just be doing that with anything. And Kildare races folds, and yeah, you did have a really big hand 7-4-2-1, but somehow you open a two card draw and you go and make number two. So go figure, right? So we saw number 6 on the previous hand, number 2 on that hand. So you do see some monsters here, quite a lot of big hands here. And a lot of that is because people are playing too many hands. So that guy there who drew 2, he shouldn't have been in the hand at all, and he goes and makes number 2. So you see people make these big hands who shouldn't even be in the pot. So now I've got a monster. Very next hand, we're seeing 3 successive hands here. Somebody made number 6, somebody makes number 2. I obviously raise this up, even have a blocker as well. 2-2-1, and I go and immediately hit number 2, the same as what that David guy did on the previous hand. So I bet that, which I would also do if I missed. Absolutely do that if I missed, even if my draw was a lot not rubbish, because I wouldn't be playing that hand if my draw was rubbish. So now we go 1-0. I bet this. Now he's pat. Interesting. If he comes out and bets, that would be absolutely beautiful. Then I'd raise him, obviously. But now he doesn't. I bet. And he calls me. I win a nice pot there. This is a funny one here. It's always a little bit awkward when you have a rough BADUGI in the big blind. Of course, most of the BADUGIs you'll get will be rough BADUGIs. So here I am. Notice that I'm being a lot more active now. I've just had more hands, but I've still only actually seen the draw. There's only well, 9 times. 1 in 7 hands I've actually seen the draw so far. So notice that, right? So notice how low my VPIP is. It's tiny, and that's kind of not that. It is on the low side. It's not often going to be as low as this, it's but hands don't actually run very close together. So if you're playing more than 30% of hands, you're playing too many hands. It's that simple. The 30, I think, would be the maximum that you could probably play profitably. Um, it's probably going to be closer to 20 than 30, honestly. Below 20 means you're not playing enough, but this is obviously a really, really small sample size. I mean, maybe you could even get away with playing like high teens, but I think that's probably a little bit too tight. Anyway, so because that was an interesting one. That was an interesting one, right? So I raise it up, and then you limped in, and I raise, and you just fold. That's just so weird. Had no choice but to raise that. Absolutely no choice. So here I've got a big draw under the gun +1. We're seven-handed. He re-raises. He's short. The Shakzaden has been an aggressive player so far. Haven't seen him before, I don't think. Anyway, I could cap there. I think that would be okay. So I've got a lot. I'm sure I've got way more. I've got more than 25% equity here, which I would need to make capping the correct play. And I think in a cash game I might actually do that. But even though my draw is not the absolute best, um, here though, because it's a tournament, I'm keen to reduce variance a little bit, so I just call the 3-bet there. Tiger's got a pat hand. I've got good equity against him. Got really good equity against him. And multi-way. Notice that if everybody's drawing, everybody's equity improves. Everybody benefits from having other draws in the hand. That's the funny thing about this. Um, and if we're all drawing, say we all have good 3-card draws, three card hands, and you have like a Pat Queen or something, then those heads up, a Pat Queen's a favourite against um, a 1-card draw, a small favourite, like 53%. But with three other players, and you're not 25% there. You're way less than 25. You're down into kind of mid-teens or something. It really if you have a pat hand, you really take a massive hit with every other person that's in the hand. It's kind of interesting. I'm not sure everybody appreciates that. So he's not pat. He actually does have a draw. So this guy draws 2. Yeah, okay. And you come out and bet. And I don't know. See, I've never seen him before. So I don't even actually, I'm not sure he knows what he's doing at all. It's already looking a little bit, do you know what you're doing? I don't know. Anyway, so he raises, and I can't fold, so I feel I've got enough equity to call here. He might even re-raise, but I'm okay with that. And he does. This is a really weird hand, by the way. He calls, and then this guy here just caps. I could sort of see that coming, and I don't. This is where variance gets really high, especially when you have somebody else who has no idea, who just keeps betting and raising and capping. Then we all only and they're in a multi-way pot. Then that everybody apart from one of you is going to lose. Quite a lot of chips. So it increases your profitability, also bumps up your variance. So I've still just got the 6-4-2, 2 draws left. On the second draw, he's pat. Does he know what he's doing? And that's the other thing to note here is that we've now been going for 70 minutes. So he bought in late, and people who buy in late are less likely to know what they're doing than people who buy in on time. That's an absolute a very clear correlation. So he just bets. I just call, not going away here. Notice it's so we go one, one none, and what I don't think I was quite aware at the time of what was going on. This guy might not have had a clue. So I go and hit, a BADUGI, which is nice. It's not a very strong one, obviously. And I mean, he's only got 250 behind, but I needed to actually just raise there. Actually, it should have been fairly clear to me that he didn't really know what he was doing. So I just call, and he really look what he's got. He doesn't have the slightest idea. This here he didn't have anything, so um, and Tiger didn't hit either. So look, I managed to win a huge pot. I made a little mistake there by not actually raising him on the river, but still, um, I I've got an absolute ton of chips, 13,500, which it's very nice. But I've been here before in these sorts of stages of the tournament where I've won some big pots, have the chip lead as I have now, end up completely crashing and burning. So very well aware of that. And okay, there he goes. He had 7-4-3. That was all in there. So actually, my funny thing is, I had the best hand anyway, even if I'd missed. Presuming that you didn't have a better hand than well, what I had. Maybe who knows? Maybe you did. The better three card hand. I don't know. So make him red. And then this is the weird thing, right? And I don't understand. He actually drew two on the last draw here, and he made that. I think he made it by accident. I really think he made that hand by accident. He drew two. He had like he was trying to make, I don't know, a straight or something. He goes and hits that, and I think entirely by accident. That's so weird. So that guy there must have thought he'd win that pot. Only a tiny pot anyway. Hardly matters, but very, very weird. So now I have this is kind of interesting. I have a BADUGI, a very, very bad BADUGI in the big blind. There are two things you can do with this hand. You can break and draw to the five ace. It's very breakable, this hand. Or you might just decide to pat it. And obviously, lots of bets go in here. If you raise and you re-raise or something, you can't cap. But if you raise and you re-raise, I might simply fold this. I probably will if you do that. But let's see. So he just limps in, and I'm in the big blind. It's not really what I want to see. So I decide, do I want to raise and pat, or do I just want to draw two and just um, check my options? So he goes, because he goes to 500. I then he's getting it all in. I then go to 600, put in full second bet, and then I decide to pat. I'm going to try and play this fast and knock other people out. It might be suspicious because I'm in the big blind and could have a random hand, but so anyway, here we are, first draw. He's like just a non-factor, this guy here. Hardly any chips anyway. Draws two. I pat. Maybe it's possible he doesn't know the rules of the game. So we go 2-0-0-1. I bet. I'm hoping to knock this guy out. Like if he has a worse pat hand to get him to break or to just fold. That's my plan. There's also the possibility he doesn't even know how to play. So I don't expect that to work. I expect him to to call at least, and then to see the draw, or and then just to pat or whatever. But no, he folds, which is just beautiful. And this guy here, Relher, what does he do? He, oh, okay. So you drew one. You draw one there. And last draws one again. I don't decide to bet this one. He just checks it back. I think he had a pretty decent draw, actually. I think I was lucky to hang on with my hand, but I was glad to get him out of the way. Just decided to play it fast. Next turn I don't have anything. I very happily let it go. 16,000. So I've been a little bit more active here. This Addic, 1-1. Okay, final draw. Something funny happened here, I can't remember. So I'm not involved in this hand. And now he draws 2. Now we go to the last draw. So he went 1, then 2. Now 2 again. And he calls, and he's got no idea, right? He's all over the place there. So that time he didn't know what he was doing either. Wow, it is amazing, this, isn't it? You got people just torching off their money. I know it's not very much money, but still, it's I think if I'm playing any game for actual cash, I'm going to at least know, at least have some vague recollection of the rules, or vague idea of the rules. Anyway, so okay, good draw here. Clearly, my club's alive as well. Decide to just call the third bet here. And capping would sort of be alright. So he draws 1, I draw 1. Hit a king. I don't decide to keep the king. With 4 away, I actually think keeping the king would be a fairly big mistake here. You just don't want a king, and your draw is so good that you've got to draw here. Absolutely have to. I don't know why I didn't bump it up to 300 there, really, because he's not really a factor. He's just just getting all his chips in here. Check here though. 1-1-2. If he bets, I just call. It's a small bet, obviously. 1. Again, I hit. So once again, I hit. I make a pair that is the right suit. It's twice in a row there, and then I think I probably make a bad call here. Just because the odds I was getting nearly 10-1, I decided to call. I had a better draw than him going into the last draw, but goes and hits 10-7, and I pay him off, which is probably not such a good thing. I don't think it's terrible though. If he's capable of bluffing at all, then you have to call there. I don't know. Pot got pretty big. Anyway, 2 people get eliminated on the same hand there. Third place now to 23, so just a short while later. So he's got some bigger stacks now. So let's just call here. I think re-raising would be fine too. Sking gets out of the way. I bet here because my card ahead at 1-2. I decide to just check this one. Checks back. And on the river, decide to just check. This time he bets, and I don't pay him off there. I decide to fold. 7-5-1 didn't really improve, and I think it's kind of a good rule of thumb that when you have a hand like that and you haven't improved at all, just let it go. You know, but it's kind of a bottom of your range thing. At the bottom of your range, it's fine to fold. So 2-1. This time I can bet. I'm a card ahead again. This little heads up thing going on. And again, I'm going to be betting no matter what. This time he folds. Yeah. 3-way at the moment. That 4. Got a big hand here. Try and get as much money in as I possibly can with this. Okay, so he raises, which is I'm pretty happy with. I re-raise. He just calls. 0-1, I bet. Now the big question is, what do I do? What do I do if he raises me? Do I re-raise? Ooh, I think that's where it gets difficult. In some games, I think this would be a fairly easy re-raise. But in this game, I'm not so sure. I think it's a really, really close one. I think maybe I should re-raise, actually. I think I probably should. He folds there, though. Interesting. To second place now. I will open this up on the, but I don't want to call the 1.5 bets there. You know, when you raise, I don't. Suddenly this hand shrivels in value, and I'm out of position. Out of position to him as well, and anybody else who enters the pot. So just, I think a lot of people for a lot of people this is a standard call, but I actually think that's a little bit of a leak. Again, if you're playing 10-20 and everybody's really aggressive, that's a different matter. But this is not like that. I think in this game, it would be a leak to call here. 7 minutes till late reg finishes. Now down to 3, so I've skipped forward even a little bit more. Now I've got a very good 2-card draw here because all my clubs and hearts are live. Under the gun guy raises, so I don't really love that very much. But I have to call here. I feel I have to call just because of the immediate odds I'm getting. Hope to, at least improve to a good 3-card hand here. And I do, right? So I've got the king. Getting rid of the king is mandatory. You can't keep it. So we go 2-2, and what does he do? He doesn't. He's pat. Now this is so weird. There's a possibility that he's actually going to have a worse king than what I've got, but there's also the third person in the. I think it's fairly unlikely, even though it's possible. There's a third player in the pot too. I think patting a king and letting this person make a queen, or you have a queen, it would just be terrible. But 2 draws to come. I need to use them. So I mean, if this was a queen, I think I'd probably get rid of it too. Jack, I'd probably keep it though. Even though there are definitely times when I would get rid of a jack with that underneath. It's because of his pat range is going to be. It's very weird how he didn't re-raise this. It's really, really weird. Didn't get any money in. It's very weird. Okay. So he goes and bets this, which makes sense. And I miss. Okay. Because I feel his range is not going to be very strong because he was so passive before the draw. I feel I have enough odds here to call the bet with. So let's see. We now go to the final draw. Get a low blocker. We are on the final draw. And he's got a worse king than the one that I broke. Oh, but I couldn't pat that, right? I just couldn't. My draw was far, far too good. That other player was still in there at that point. Yeah, whatever. Sometimes that sort of thing's going to happen. So nothing I can do about that one. If he's going to play a king at all, he needs to raise it before the draw. And yeah, move on to the next hand. I've still got a good stack here. You see I've still got over 13,000, over 13 big bets left. Only 2 minutes now until the late reg finishes. So coming up towards, we have to be thinking about bubble time soon. We're down now, 6 minutes later, or roughly that, I think. Down to 18 now, and the late reg is definitely finished. Open the 7-5-2 under the gun 6-handed, and I just get the fold. That's all right. Line's about to go up here. And again, I just get a walk here, so that's good. I've got, so even when the big blinds go up, the blinds go up, sorry, I'll have about almost a dozen big bets left. So this one here, he's very, very short here. Calls, 1-2, I bet, as I have to really. And he calls 1-2 again. I bet, and I've improved. 7-4-2 is a lot better than what I had before. He just gets all his chips in. I call, and unfortunately he's hit a Badugi, and I don't have the best hand, and I'm down to about 11,000. He's up to, look at that, and then a couple of minutes later he's up to almost 18,000. I didn't see, it didn't show that those hands there that he won, but he won some big pots there to put him on a on a pretty big stack now, and I'm a bit loose here, but I feel with the odds I'm getting, the fact that I don't face reverse implied odds that I'd normally face with a hand like 7-2, like multi-way or something, and also that most importantly, the fact that he's so short means that he could be just um, he wanted to get all his chips in with a very wide range. Who knows? So I feel I have the odds to call here, and I'm fortunate enough to actually hit a Badugi. Um, so I check raise him there. It's the only way to play this and hope he's not pat. He's not. And we go to the last draw. And he doesn't hit. And it looks like he had a very strong draw there. So I sucked out on him there, let's be honest. So you see every 8 minutes the blinds go up. And down to 15 now. 11 get paid. So you're going to start seeing this bubble thing, bubbles start to appear all over the place. Potentially Tom's on 7,000. And what does this other guy do? He folds, so heads up here. The first draw. I've got a pretty good two-card draw, but I miss. He draws one. He needs to bet here. Absolutely needs to bet. In fact, he needed to raise before the draw too. So he didn't raise before the draw on the button, and drew one. That's shockingly awful. And then he doesn't raise on the flop either. And now on the turn we go 2-1. I have to fold, so I just completely brick out there. And so I'm eighth place out of 15. Oh, middle of the pack here. A lot of us on similar sort of stack sizes between that 10 and 20,000. I'm sort of down the bottom of that. There's three of us on between 11 and 13 actually. So very, very similar amounts. So need to raise this up here. Drop down a little bit. It was 18-ish before. Open that up. What does he do? He just folds. So I get down that, just take that down. See, I'm right on the average stack here, and it's interesting. I haven't been, I haven't had too many ups and downs. I've just had a couple of ups and then sort of in a holding pattern. That's where I am now, really. A couple of big ups and then a lot of flat periods, which is okay. Anyway, open this. We go 1-1. He's been playing a lot of hands. He's been aggressive. So when he calls, I figure he might not even have a hand as good as mine when he calls and draws one. Let's see. So I just check though because I mean if he has got a worse hand, it's not going to be by a lot. And of course he might have hit a Badugi. So let's see. Anyway, he bets, and now I draw, and he's pat, and I go and hit an 8, so I know I'm going to be ahead of what he has a lot of the time, but certainly not all the time, like half the time, maybe just over half the time. I don't know, something like that. Um, there's no point in check raising here. I don't think. I've got value for that because if I check raise and he's got a monster, which he might have, um, he's going to three bet me, and I'm not enjoying that at all. This hand's very hard to just completely get away from, completely fold, because people do really weird stuff. Heads up pot, it's really hard to fold something like this. So I just call, hope to win this pot. Um, and unfortunately I don't. I think he probably had the 7 to begin with. I don't think he had 3-2-1. I think he would have re-raised that, but you see weird stuff. And just by pure probability, he probably, let's see what he had. See it again. there's just more ways of him having. You could have a 7-2-1, 7-3-1, 7-3-2. So there's three possibilities for him having the seven draw to begin with. Only one having the 3-2-1. So I would say 75% of the time, probably more, considering I think he would have re-raised if he'd had the 3-2-1. So now that was a pretty significant pot. It's bigger than the number of chips I have remaining at the end of this hand. So it looks like I was in sixth place before that hand, but definitely not anymore. And I'm down to 11th as a result of that. Sort of on the borderline. I'm not thinking about trying to just limp into the money here. So Tenchi Tom raises. I don't know whether I would have called, but he called. It gives me better odds. I've got a good two-card draw, so I decide to just take one off and hopefully hit something, but I failed to hit anything. And Docent Max, he just comes out and bets directly into us. And when I completely miss, I just have to fold. So I don't want to, I think that's the only thing to do. It was just a speculative, one and done sort of thing. It looks crazy, and he's pat, right? He had a pat hand there. So and Tenchi Tom folds. So you can see I'm down to 7,000 ish. Now I'm looking to see what's going on the other table. Now I'm in last but one place, outside the money positions. Bubbles are up now, 13th out of 14, only 11 get paid. I'm not going to get involved with this one. 7-5s is too weak here. 7-5's too weak. Let's let him have that, even though he's been really aggressive, which is one reason why he has so many chips. He's done a very, very good job of winning these small pots, taking them down before the draw. So you can see that it's the money bubble, and people don't want to bust. So and the other thing is, although I'm really short, I'm not so short that I have to be going crazy or anything. Not like I've got one big bet left or something like that. You see here somebody on that's me, somebody on 4,000, somebody on 2,000, a couple of other people on, sort of high four-figure stacks. So he opens, I'm sure he's got something pretty useful to be opening that under the gun there. When he's got a pretty short stack. So this one here on the button, I've got 5-2-1. Have to go with this one. If someone raises, I'm probably going to 3-bet and commit. I'm happy to commit with this one, honestly. I'm not going to try and just limp into the money. It's a bad strategy. The only time, I think as I alluded to this earlier, was where you really want to just try and do that is if you're on the immediate bubble, very close to it. There's a lot of maybe other short stacks around, and your stack is tiny. Well, in that case, it has to be a pretty extreme scenario for you to really just want to min cash. If you've got a really, really tiny stack, then a large proportion of your equity in the tournament, in the prize pool, comes from min cashing. Obviously, maybe I'm overdoing all of this when it's a 550 tournament. I mean, God, who knows? But you'd rather have $8, $9 than zero, right? If the only two options, realistic options, having $8.50 or whatever it is, and zero, well, then you'd rather have the 850. But when all the other options are still on the table, which they still are even for me at this point, you don't want to just think, well, they're your two options, because that's just clearly not true. So I'm cut off here. 6-4-1's a very good hand, and even though there are three people who will get to play, I have to open this up here. And he 3-bets. I'm like, oh dear, oh dear. So can I get away from this at any point? This is the big question. He's pat, right? Which is kind of what I thought he would be, considering he is short himself. Probably not going to be going crazy here. I draw one. Says I've been playing for 3 hours. I haven't been playing for 3 hours. I logged in about an hour before I started this. But still 2 hours. And so we went 1-1 and 0-1. What am I saying? I miss. Certainly going to see this second draw. It's only going to cost me 800 here. Well, it only cost me 800 just then. Well, the problem here I'm facing now, I go and hit this cut. Now, what would I have done if I hadn't hit that? Maybe I I would have folded there, quite possibly. It's going to cost me half my stack just to see this. I don't know. I think it's a really, really close decision. So there's a sort of pot of gold sitting there. He's likely to be pretty wide there as well with his three betting range. And because of that, I decide to raise here. That's why I decide to raise. In some situations, I might just call. The fact that he was pat from the beginning, wasn't he? So his range is going to be, it might even be any Badugi. So I'm feeling like, he might not be any Badugi. He might not be doing this with kings or queens, whatever. But I feel like I'm ahead of most of his range. He only three bets me though. I'm thinking, I don't know whether this I've got the best hand here. Anyway, so he just hangs on to it, and I do have the best hand. His hand was actually pretty strong. Obviously, it gets a lot weaker when I raise him, but I guess he just had um, too much hand to like let go of it or anything. So anyway, I I hang on there, and I've got a good stack now. Well, not a good stack, but a little bit of breathing space, which I would have had absolutely none if I hadn't won that pot, if I hadn't gone and hit that nine. So, and for 2 hours now in the tournament. Um, and some really, really short stacks here. This is something I am following what's going on the other table. You see, back up to about where the blue line is, the average stack, all flips around very, very quickly here. And I am also following to some extent what's going on the other table. 13 left now. Um, on the bottom, we'll open it up. I feel I have to do that there. And hope that they both fold really, but no. So kill their aces, three bets, and I have to. If I don't hit something here, I'm out of the way. Yeah, I just let it go. I know I'm getting 7-1 on a call there or something, 6.5-1, but whatever it is, still have to fold. And now you see I've dropped right down again. Dropped right down again on the immediate bubble now. But the thing is, you've got this guy here to my left with not many chips. There's also the people on the other table with about the same number of or even fewer chips. So you're raising, as is your wont here, and I decide to fold 7-6-5. I want a really good three-card hand here. So I take a look at that other table. You look at that, you've got 1,000, you've got 2,000. Some micro stacks here. So I've got to hang on to what I've got at the moment. Um, so I don't want to bust out before those people. So I'm sort of saying it's going to take an extreme scenario to really deviate significantly. But this is a pretty extreme scenario. You've got these micro stacks hanging around, like three of them, with hardly any chips. Like busting out before at least one of them, I think would be a. I'd have to do something, probably have to do something be very unlucky, or just do something really silly for that to happen. So these blinds are coming around and going to hit these people very soon. So they'll be forced to get all their money in. Okay. See, I've got one eye on the other table. And here is Sking, and drawing two. They're all drawing two here. He's all in here. Oh, not playing a hand there. 2-2, 1-2-2 now. And your Pat. Your name might actually be Pat too. It's possible, right? And I don't know his name. And of course, Sking wins and survives. So the bubble keeps going. And look what I have here. I've got 8-6-4-2. I'm like, oh no. I look down at that. I'm thinking, oh shit, I'm on the immediate bubble. But I just think it's just too good to. Uh, to fold, but I was at risk there. That could have been like curtains for me basically. Obviously, I'm going to raise this up, and he's got 760, but he's seeing somebody on the other table with even an even shorter stack, I think. So very, very extreme situation here. Yeah, 215, that's right. I've got a Badugi on this table, um, but I just decided to let it go this time. I just don't do anything really silly in this situation. 200 chips. So, actually sitting out now. It's kind of almost almost laughable this. And if I had a few more chips, I could really exploit this bubble situation. But unfortunately I don't have the luxury of being able to do that like you can, or you certainly can, and one or two people, other people in the tournament certainly can as well, like you, right? Okay. Yeah, it can be a little bit of a frustrating period, the bubble, because it can take a long time. So you make a good hand there. Another nut seven. So it's all that you made that same hand. We've seen that hand at least three times today. Exact same hand at 7-3-2-1. I made it earlier too, and I failed to raise the river to my shame. So now you are going all in. You're forced to go all in here. And is he going to survive again? Drawing three. It's not looking so good for him, but one this time. 1-1. Last draw 1-1. Oh, and this time he doesn't survive. He only has a three card eight. And there we go. You can see splash. Oh, that's that's the bubble. That's the bubble finally burst. We're down to, and actually we're down to 10 now. Somebody else went out. And the other thing to think about, there's a payout jump at 9, another one at 7. So because those some people had such short stacks like them, I was very conscious of that. That if I do survive, there's a good chance that I will actually ladder up to and make the final table, maybe seventh place, that sort of thing as well. So that'll do for this part of the video. I'm going to play the second part pretty soon. Hope you liked that. Hope it was at least somewhat illuminating. So I know some people are very much in the dark about this game. And sort of see what my ranges are in different positions and stuff. But I haven't really gone into that in detail. But anyway, hope it is somewhat informative, and I'll uh, come back with the second part of this video pretty soon. Okay, enjoy. Bye for now.